Introduce to us, Mr. Tony.
Mr. Tony.
I'm gonna do it during our bridge priorities. Do you want me to do it now?
Do it now, yeah.
I should have thought to have Nikki here too, but I didn't.
That's all right. I was gonna do this during bridge priority hearing, but I'll do it now. So, good morning, Commissioners. Kay Baniak, Physical Development. So, as most of you know and heard, we did a little reorganization over the last couple months and have since posted our Director of Public Works and County Engineer position. And I'm very pleased and excited to announce that Mr. Ben Johnson is our new County Engineer. Super excited to have him try out a new role. His skill set and his personality and his dedication and his skills and knowledge and everything else will be wonderful for our team to continue that. So now the biggest problem will be to try and find a replacement for Ben. But so yeah, I just wanted to welcome you to have you welcome Ben and introduce him again, even though you're all well aware of who he is and everything. But
Is he a lot nicer than our previous?
Yeah, I hope so.
maybe he's calmer, maybe I don't know. Maybe he's not so chatty all the time. But I don't know. We'll see. You'll have to tell me. Exactly.
Village
tax.
Village tax.
I've been taught well.
Don't forget. So Ben actually officially started last Monday, because his first official day in the role. And then we will bring the county engineer appointment will be on your June 16th board item.
Is that a speech you have to give us?
I don't have a but I'm very excited and honored to serve as the next Olmsted County Engineer.
Welcome.
We've got a
Welcome.
great staff.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment? Any more public comment? Last call. All right, then we will call the Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 Olmsted County Board meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think we have no volunteer interviews either, so we'll move right into the public hearing. And you can come right back up, I guess.
Okay, now we got the fun stuff done, the niceties, now we can.
Yeah.
Get back to business.
Oh, one each?
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Ben Johnson, Public Works. The item before you is our annual Olmsted County and Township bridge priorities list that we have to update annually to be eligible for bridge bond funds. We update the list every year based on inspections, bridge inspections, and projects completed in the previous year, and then projects that we have in the upcoming year, and list the priorities accordingly. If you look at the map that Kay just passed out, the green side is the township bridges. There hasn't been a whole lot of change in those. You'll notice though on this map that's different from last year on the far right, there's a column that says LPI number, and that's for the local planning index. It's kind of being phased in by the state as the next kind of sufficiency rating, if you will, for determining eligibility for bridge bonds. The number that if it falls below to be eligible on that is a 60. If you remember previously, the sufficiency number, if it falls below 80 and is structurally deficient, then they're eligible for bridge bonds.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was
Yep.
distracted. Did you say 60?
60 for the row on the far right, the LPI, which is the local planning index, yes.
And that's replacing the sufficiency rating?
Correct. So there's kind of a 5-year grace period where you could use either or, and then after that 5-year grace period, it will be the LPI that we'll be using. And then if you flip it over to red side, that's the county bridges. Several of them at the top will be replaced with our grading projects on Casafo or County Road 101.
Thanks.
And then there are a few that are getting close or are eligible for bridge bonds that we're working on plans for, and we'll get applications in for funding. So what we will ask for today is to hold the public hearing for each the county and township bridges, and then pass a separate resolution for each the township and the county bridge priorities list.
Hey, Ben, there's FO in red. What does that mean?
That means functionally obsolete, so that deals with the geometrics. It's narrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, Mr. Johnson, do we have an expectation of a life cycle of a bridge, how long a bridge generally will last?
Typically, they're around 50 to 75 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
The oldest bridge in county.
Yep.
You know?
One more.
We just replaced, we just replaced the last of the timber ones.
Yep.
Last
On,
year.
on County Road 32. Yes.
Yeah, so never mind. Don't have to answer. Just curious.
This is the quiz the engineer.
Questions are done. I got one. So, how much money do we have, or do we have any idea what the legislature's gonna do, or how far our money's, we really don't at this
No,
point, do we?
no.
Karnak. Just answer that,
Right.
Karnak.
This is your new position. You have to
You
tell
don't
the
even know who
future.
Karnak is, do you?
Very good.
That was an old Johnny Carson.
Yeah, old Johnny Carson.
Karnak.
Young.
Yeah, I know, that's it.
Of
Says,
Karnak.
he has no idea what I'm talking about.
Do you have
Karnak.
any idea what we're talking about?
Oh, Karnak.
Is he the guy with the big
Yeah,
hat?
turban.
Yeah,
Oh.
I've seen it. That makes sense.
One of his answers was sis boom ba, and the question he'd rip open the envelope, what does an exploding sheep do? Sis boom ba.
And
It's old humor, you know.
you have no insight on the kind of money, right, that's gonna come. I forgot to ask that.
Right,
But
right.
it's-
So, some of the last numbers I've heard have been all the way from the 30, like what we see a lot of times, to 50 to 100. But we haven't heard a good number yet that we're gonna have it all. We constantly have a list of eligible bridges up at St. Paul, between the city, county, and townships. They never have fully funded the list since I've been around, since we
Right.
started creating a list. The most I've ever seen has been 40, but then, as you're well aware, Commissioner, the big budget buster bridges sit in there and can take half of that, so, I don't have any sense of what we're gonna get just yet.
Figure we still have agreements that they will peel off the big budget busters and at least go with something reasonable to compete for, but we don't know what, anywhere near what that number's gonna be until June 14th or so, right?
Right.
Okay.
Not heard.
All right. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, so we can
You gotta open the public
open the
hearing.
public hearing. Any, anyone like to speak for the public hearing? Is there anybody coming in from remote?
No.
No? Do I also need to ask 3 times? 3 times. Is there, by December, I'll know how to do this, and then I'll forget again. Is there anyone who would like to speak during the public hearing on the bridges and road proposals? Anyone like to speak on that?
Close public hearing.
Second.
All right, all those in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now, oh yeah, Mark's out there. That's right. So now we can pass.
Move approval.
Well, I gotta do one at a time. Move approval of the, Calmer, or the
Township bridge.
Township bridges.
So,
Second.
You gotta do 2 separate ones.
Okay,
Second.
any questions on the township bridges? Did you want to speak, Mr. Johnson? We had to call you that now, right?
Mr. Johnson.
All right, there's no questions or discussion. We'll vote on the resolution for the township bridge priorities. All those,
We'll need to do roll call because
because of Mark. All right, we'll do roll call. Commissioner Flynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Beer?
Aye.
Commissioner Tyne?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so that passes. And then we can talk
Move
about
approval of the county.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, we can then have a vote. Commissioner Flynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden? Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner
Aye.
Beer? Commissioner Tyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Podolsky votes aye, so that passes as well.
Thank you.
I'm reminded now that we, because of people who are sight impaired, who are tuning into this, we are reminded to introduce our names before we speak, so someone who's remotely watching can know who we are. I think we talked about that last time. So we now can talk to revisions to the solid waste management ordinance.
I'm gonna bet Tony's got that one.
I think he does.
Yeah, look, I was right.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Tony Hill, Director of Environmental Resources. I'm here to talk about proposed changes to the solid waste fee ordinance. The reason for updating the solid waste fee schedule, you can see on the PowerPoint, equitable rates between the different disposal options. Number 2, rate increase due to operational expenses, future capital costs, and adjusting to market conditions. Number 3, we want to encourage waste diversion, especially around demolition debris. We want to also add more descriptive examples and categories to provide clarification within the fee schedule. And the last one is to change the unit measure on specific ways to utilize our scale system. The OWF, we're proposing fee schedule changes in October 1st of this year. The number 1 is the self-haul service rate from $78 per ton to $92 per ton. And this is basically, we're just trying to level the rate to approximate the commercial hauler rate effective per ton rate. So basically all we're trying to do is, there's very few customers that self-haul their waste in, but we want to level it to what the commercial haulers are currently paying. And we haven't raised this since 2013. The other thing is the industrial solid waste test load. It's $500, and we want to make it clear that that's for testing of the material. Some people think that that the tip fee is included in that $500, but we just want to make it clear that that is just for testing of the industrial waste to make sure that it's not hazardous. And then we just want to remove infectious waste and process waste because we no longer accept those materials at the OWF. The next changes we have is the landfill.
Excuse me, Tony,
Yeah.
what's an example of an infectious waste?
So medical waste, so red bag waste. So we
oh.
used to take it in from the Federal Medical Center. We no longer accept it. So,
I had a question too, Tony. When you were talking about you wanted to reduce demolition materials, are you going to?
yeah, so
about
this
that
will be part of the
later?
landfill that I'll be
Okay.
speaking to on this slide. So the Kelmar landfill, our fee changes we're requesting for this month, the 14th of this month. And I'll get into that. That'll be the third bullet. But right now, again, like the OWF, we want to increase the self-haul service charge rate from 78 per ton to 92 per ton, just like the OWF on the self-haul material. The other thing is the asbestos-containing material. We want to increase from $30 a cubic yard to $40 a cubic yard. And the reason being is increased construction costs for developing new cells at the site, as well as increased operational costs. And then we have not raised this rate since 2007. And so the construction and demolition debris, we want to go from $10 a cubic yard to $40 per ton. And the $40 per ton is equivalent to approximately $28 per cubic yard. The current rate is below the market rate. Also increased construction costs again for developing new cell at the landfill. We also want to encourage waste diversion or recycling of that material. And then improve efficiency by using our scale system. Right now, we're charging by the cubic yard. We want to use our scale system out at the landfill. And again, we haven't raised this rate since 2012. And then the C&D rates, anything less than 1 ton, we want to charge a minimum of $40 per cubic yard to encourage the recycling center. Instead of going out to the landfill, we want to encourage them self-haulers to use the OCRC, the residential self-haulers. So question about C&D rates, Commissioner Podolsky?
I was wondering, when you want to encourage waste diversion, where do you want it diverted to?
So we want to encourage recycling. So there's a couple outfits that have commercial crushers that are able to recycle that material. So we think if we're able to raise the rate, that'll encourage people with clean concrete rather than dumping it in our cell to use a crusher and recycle the material.
Okay, so you're thinking about concrete.
Yeah, specifically about concrete and
Okay.
other and metal and other debris that's usually they'll be placed in our demolition cell that can be recycled.
You think of like rebar that's included in cement, you would like to recycle that?
Yeah, ferrous metal, we'd like to encourage that being recycled on the front end rather than us going on the back end and trying to recover that material. So we're just trying to encourage it.
By raising the rates, you think this will be an effective encouragement?
We hope so. That's our goal, is if we increase the rate, that will
Uh-huh.
encourage recycling. Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sheila.
Go ahead.
No, no, please.
Cascaden speaking. Mr. Hill, I'm really just don't quite follow here.
Yeah.
So we're raising the rate, and that encourages the construction materials to be recycled elsewhere, not through us.
Right, that they can be recycled elsewhere, not through at the Kelmar landfill, not at our demolition cell. That we're encouraging it to go to another contractor to be recycled. And so yeah, so what we're also trying to preserve our landfill space out at the landfill. And we just think that recycling is a better option than dumping
I'm
it.
with you. I'm just trying to understand do we have vendors in the community that do recycling of concrete?
So yeah, there's two contractors with a crusher, and you can see that at other sites that they do have a lower rate to encourage clean concrete to be recycled, and so yeah, it's happening.
So there is a vendor and there's a financial incentive for the construction companies to use these alternative.
We believe so, yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I want to follow up, Flynn. I don't think so. You'll see more burying of construction material, which I don't think we want.
Mm-hmm.
We're raising the price of affordable housing. There's a cost to this that's passed on. So when I saw this, we're talking about a 280% increase. Maybe we're below a cost.
Yeah.
But we're 280%. So I don't know what we're accomplishing. How much revenue was this, and how much do you think is going to be coming from this?
Yes.
Or this waste might go elsewhere.
Yes, we currently don't know what that the revenue increase will be, because there's just so many different factors, and we've just seen a really over the last 5 years an increase in C&D waste coming to us. And so we're hoping that, like I said, is that that people wouldn't, bury it on site, that they'd find alternatives. Because right now, some people are taking the concrete for free, the clean concrete for free, and recycling it. And other sites are charging like $5 a cubic yard for clean concrete. So there is kind of an incentive, we believe, to recycle it.
I don't see that, Tony. I'm sorry. The cost of removing this material and taking it somewhere else, the trucking and all that, especially concrete, weighs a lot. If you've got a construction guy that's got a use for it, yeah. But I think otherwise we're going to see a lot more material just being buried or crushed, which can be done quickly with today's equipment, than what we're trying to do and increasing. So I question that. But again, the cost.
Yeah.
The cost will drive up a price of a building site or any construction project. That'll be figured out. So.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we want to, as part of this increase too, is that the Municipal Pollution Control Agency is looking at new rules. And so that's going to add costs out if we have to build a new cell out at the landfill, because of what they're talking about is leachate collection, as well as the cell being lined. Like right now, no demolition cells in the state have to be lined. And so that future, what we're looking at is in the future, is that those requirements and that just that we have, you know, we can pay for those if we want to stay in the demolition business.
Commissioner Beer?
Yeah, Commissioner Beer speaking. We talked about this at the Public Works, and the other two members can correct me if I'm mistaken in my, what I think we said there. We were okay with raising the rate and doing it on the 14th, for the reason that we think that there'll be more recycling. There's who's Vite, they have a recycling out there at 104. I mean, it's on the way to the landfill. They crush that stuff. They take the re-rot out. They're doing that now. We'd like to encourage more of that. And then the longer term is we got to have the discussion. Do we even want to stay in the construction and demo business with these new things like Tony said, with having a clay fill, you know, having to have the cell,
liner,
of the liner and the monitoring wells and all that business. So for me, and I think the other two members, Ken and Greg, on the Public Works Board or Development Board, we kind of want to ease ourselves out of this business at some point, and but we're okay with raising those rates at this point.
Okay, how is Olmsted County, the growth we're doing, going to ease ourselves out of the construction
Can I jump in here?
material
Well, I think,
business?
again, beer speaking, you know, by raising the rates, they're going to find other things to do with it, whether they bury it themselves. We think they will. I mean, there are alternatives, and they can use this product. Vite, you know, the out there, they got a hell of a pile of recycled concrete, and then they take the steel out, like the rebar and that stuff, and they ship that off. They're doing it, and they'll be, if we raise our prices, there'll be more of a financial, this is what we think, incentive for them to recycle more. Could they bury it? They may bury it on site. I don't know, but these new liners are going to cost a lot of money.
I see that Mark also would like to ask a question.
Yeah, Mark Tyne here. So I could tell you that I'm opposed to the construction debris increase. It's 280%, and we're giving people basically 2 weeks notice. And I can tell you, I got a call from a contractor that on one specific job that he has ongoing right now, that this fee increase will cost him $100,000, and there is no way to back out of the contract. So he in good faith bid a project based on our rate fees, finds out secondhand that we're going to increase the rates by 280%, and it's going to cost him $100,000 out of his business's pocket. I don't have no problem with us bringing our fees back in line with what we believe the market is, but it's not in good faith for us to do that with short notice and without any consultation with our customers. So we need to rethink this. If you want to raise it up to $28 a ton, September 1st or December 1st, I'm fine with that. That most contracts should be done by then, but right now there's no way for these companies to recoup that, and that's just not fair.
So is Brown, Mark, you're saying that there is no clause for increased material cost or anything else, that these guys don't back themselves, wait, just let me finish. Right, that they contractually, I find that a little difficult because things change all the time, and that unforeseeable changes in the project are either negotiated or passed along.
Well, my internet is breaking up so it's poor, so I hope I'm not interrupting you, Ken. He specifically said, this is a contract. The contract was that's your unit prices. There's no going back on that. So that's out of his pocket. So he calls me because he hears secondhand about it, and I have no problem. He says, I have no problem. Just like you always say, Ken, you know, when government raises fees, it's the citizens that pay those fees because businesses pass it along. So he says, I have no problem if you raise your fees down the road, as long as I have a chance to pass those expenses along, you know, because I'm on a level playing field then. But this is not that. This is a 2 week notice. There's another $100,000 out of your pocket.
Madam Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Sheila Cascaden speaking. I attended the Physical Development Committee meeting because when I read that, I was also surprised. A 2-week notice without, it seems very, very short to me. Especially when we've been in a year where we're trying to help businesses recover, that we would create a very significant new fee increase with little limited notice. I also am thinking about Commissioner Flynn's comment about housing because the First Homes project was involved with 3 home demolitions and infill projects for affordable housing, which is something that we've been concerned about as a community. And I know that one of the issues that they ran into was how expensive it was. First, one of the homes had the person had been a hoarder, so there was a huge expense to get rid of everything and then to demolish it and then to reconstruct. And so if we really are interested in trying to have affordable infill in our communities around the county, that's a deterrent. Is there any provision in the proposed ordinance that would make an exception for affordable housing?
We don't have anything. Yeah. And I can say that the reason why we put this in place so quickly is because we're running out of space in the demolition cell. We probably have less than 13,000 cubic yards. The PCA's tenants have given us permission to expand the cell. And so, and we're hoping that they'll expedite our request, our modification request. And so we're looking at construction hopefully we can complete it by October, but we run the risk of maybe filling up before we get that sliver expanded. And so we might have to, if there's too much that comes in, we might have to shut it off anyway. Because right now we're just running out of space because of the increased volume that we're seeing. And part of it's because we're the cheaper rate compared to everyone else in the region.
So the worst that could happen is that the cell would fill, and we would have to stop taking demolition debris until we constructed a new cell.
Yes, and we're hoping that we'd have that by October, and then we just have to direct folks to other facilities.
And we made no consideration of a modified fee for affordable housing projects.
Right now, we don't have any modified fee for affordable housing. No, we don't.
So, I'm sorry, Brown, Sheila, you're talking about the demo material that comes from a house we're tearing down?
There's been a couple of two different, a few years ago, as we had some foreclosed properties that we made available, and the First Homes Project and Habitat acquired those properties. At least 2 of those properties required demolition of the existing home because they were not salvageable, and then they were rebuilt. And at least one of them because of being on the First Homes Board representing the county board, I know that it became very expensive to clear the property. And so as we look to the future with trying to do affordable housing, and for instance, there's a project on 4th Street that's proposed for tax credit funding that didn't get funded this year, that Three Rivers Community Action didn't get, but if they get it, I think there's like 5 or 6 houses that will need to be demolished, and then new construction will go in. Mm-hmm. It'll be a big enhancement to having more of those units available and to the local property tax, but they're at a very tight budget to make this work. And so if we're suddenly increasing the demolition costs, that's why I'm asking, are we going to give any exception for qualified affordable housing projects that are in our own interest? In some ways, we're helping fund. So that's why I'm raising it.
So let me jump in. My logic takes me on this. When I look at this thing and break it down, if we're filling up the cell, we have to expand it. We're waiting for rules on guidance for a much more expensive cell. So number one, there are outlets for disposing of it for free. We'll take it and recycle it for free. So everything you can peel off and put into that source, you either have to transport it to the facility in Calmer or to a guy that's going to take it for free. So the incentive is not this cost. you don't have this cost anymore because you're not dumping it at Calmer. You're handing it over to somebody for, you gotta transport it no matter what you do. Or, as Matt says, crush it and bury it. I mean, you hope that doesn't happen, but either way, they're transporting it. So this increase hopefully will reduce and incent additional recycling, and we can't control whether somebody buries it, but even in Mark's case, if this guy is transporting, is there now an outlet where he can take a lot of this material, save a bunch of the 100,000 that he claims, and give it to somebody for free? No cost, other than the transportation. So that's why I support this. I think it's a good thing. I think anything to incent. And when I look at affordable housing and what's there, again, incent to recycle in a free manner everything you can. And it's expensive to scrape.
Commissioner Peter?
This
I
Commissioner
don't know who
Bureau.
Carl Struckman is, but he says Light is not taking concrete, so I think we gotta be careful saying that there's a free option.
I didn't hear that.
Okay,
Something about no one's taking concrete. We didn't hear you quite, Mark. Could you repeat that?
He said the material is not concrete. It's
Yeah,
something.
according to the
Oh,
comments.
it's not concrete.
On this,
Okay.
There's
yeah.
other things that.
well, this is beer again. The landfill is filling up. So it's gonna be, if we don't do anything with this increase, it's gonna be full. So the contractor, whoever this contractor is, it's gonna have to cost, and if he gets there first, hooray for him, but everybody else is gonna be stuck. The fairest way to do it is the marketplace. Crank the rate up until we get this other cell, and then let people figure it out. We can't take all the demo, I mean, we don't think we can take all the demo between now and October 1st when we could get this other cell opened up. So the fairest way to do it is let the market decide, crank up the rate. The other thing is, like Ken says, they gotta haul it out there. Vite's got that facility out there, right there, on the way. I mean, it's closer if you're coming from Rochester by a half a mile, and Vite will take it. And I don't know whether they charge something or not, but obviously we're too cheap. And again, I think eventually we want to get out of this business because we don't want to be constructing cells and monitoring wells for demo. I mean, but we're going to have to if we want to stay in the business. And it's going to get expensive. So to me, it's an easy decision. And to say that they didn't know about it for 2 weeks, that's disingenuous. They've known about this. They just didn't think we were going to actually do it. It's been more than 2 weeks we've been talking about this. Anyways, let's move along.
Madam Chair, I just observed that some people have been talking about for more than 2 weeks, but the general public, including some of the county board members, weren't aware of it. So it's not generally known.
Oh, I've got one last thing to add.
Please.
One last thing to add. You want the coffee? Said, yeah, she wants coffee down there. And in the past, when you talk about making a fee, this is beer again, talk about letting affordable housing dump it for free or a reduced rate or something. I don't want to make a blanket statement like that. In the past, when we had the tornadoes 10 years ago, we cut the rate way back because we had all this demo. So we can, on an this case by case business, I'm not against that. But to look at, I don't want to make a blanket statement saying if it's affordable housing, they get a lower rate. If there's some deal that's got to be done and that's a trigger, we can look at it. But case by case, I don't want to do it on a blanket statement.
Commissioner Flynn?
Flynn, Tony, okay, if ours is closed, what option do people have to go to?
Yeah, there's a couple options. Other landfills that are accepted are SKB in Austin, Minnesota, or near Austin, Lansing, Minnesota. You have SKB in Rosemont. You also have a landfill in Burnsville, and also La Crosse landfill takes demolition.
Is there one in Iowa too, Tony?
What's pardon?
One in Iowa?
I think there is one in Iowa. The big one that I know of is Lake Mills, it's just south near Mason City. So.
And their rates are what?
So their rates, it varies across the board. SKB in Austin is around $11 a cubic yard, and then also, I forgot, Mankato also accepts demolition debris, the Mankato landfill. They're $11. And then Red Wing is, I think, like a 118 a ton. Vite accepts the demolition at their site, the concrete for $40 a cubic yard, I believe. And so it's all, and then Lacrosse is, I believe, $60 a ton is what they charge. So it's kind of all over the board.
Well, would you say if we raise our rates, wouldn't that help Austin out a lot?
The more material would go to Austin, yeah, at the SKB landfill, or up to Rosemont, the SKB landfill in Rosemont.
That'll help recycling.
That does help,
It doesn't.
doesn't.
No, it just goes to a different landfill.
It's costs will win out. Simple as that. We're too high, you're gonna go somewhere else. Most
Yeah.
businessmen and ladies can figure
Yeah,
that
that doesn't
out.
help distribution costs.
Yeah, and I know that they have a cheaper rate for clean concrete as well at some of those landfills. So they are trying to recycle it as well at a cheaper rate.
No. Well, we have a,
Can we, this is
Madam
Beer
Chair.
King, can we let him finish and get the public hearing, and then, because we're gonna rehash this when we take a vote, I can
Could
see
I ask
that coming.
another question before we do, Madam Chair? I'm wondering if, I'd like the board to consider adding language to the ordinance that would allow a request for reduced fees for affordable housing projects. I mean, we have some policy language as well as our fee structure in this ordinance, and I think it would be a wise thing for us to do, and I'd like you to consider that while we hear the rest of the testimony.
Okay.
Do we have any more questions for Tony? All right, then we can open a public hearing.
You have a couple more slides, right?
Oh, you do? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
just a couple more, and then I'll move on really quickly. Again, the Kelmar landfill, the waste combustor ash rate from $35 a cubic yard to $83 per ton. Again, it'd be $35 per cubic yard is equivalent to the $68 per ton rate. Again, increased cost due to development of our ash cell. And then also the ash rate hasn't been raised, ash combustor rate hasn't been raised since 2012.
Mr. Hill, Sheila Cascadon speaking. This really is a internal fee then. It's really, we're charging ourselves.
It's actually for Mayo. We actually accept Mayo's, and they're also aware of the rate increase.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And they are now accepting the Federal Medical Center's waste?
They are, I think they're accepting some of the red bag rate waste, and then I know that FMC also uses a private vendor for their medical. So.
Makes me nervous.
And then just quickly, I'll just we're also talking about fee changes at the hazardous waste facility for especially around batteries. We're just seeing high disposal costs, so we just want to make sure that we recover those costs, as well as for propane tanks, those little small tanks that people use for camping, as well as PCB ballasts. And then just quickly at the OCRC, again, we're hoping that these rates are effective today, because we're no real changes because of our emergency COVID, and just shifting what we did for COVID to make them permanent. And then on the second slide is, again, just the e-waste. E-waste prices have gone up, and we're just trying to recover those costs from our e-waste. That's the state contract. And then also brush. We're just looking at disposing brush as municipal solid waste, as garbage, because that's where we're putting it right now and processing it. It used to have a lower rate, but we're talking about accepting brush at the MSW rate to recover our costs for that. So with that, I can take any additional questions on those other rate changes or anything more about C&D waste.
On the ash one,
Yes.
obviously Mayo, but Sheila, that would be also our cost too, correct?
It's just internal. Yep, it's an internal
It'd be an
cost.
internal
It's
dollar switch around.
Yeah.
So how much internally money are we talking about that we're just going back and forth that's increasing our incinerator to there?
Yeah, so I know, I'm not sure the exact dollar amount, but I know, what we approximate for Mayo, it'd be like a $7,000 annual cost that they increase on Mayo for, their ash. But I'm not sure, I'd have to check with our finance department on that internal. I don't know, Eric, do you know what? Yeah,
Okay, we don't do, alright, some things we do, so alright. Good enough.
yeah, yeah, thank you.
It's magic.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Tyne has his hand up.
Oh, Commissioner Tyne?
I just wanted, Tony, did we reach out to any of these contractors that are bringing construction debris into our site and give them notice that we were planning a 280% increase in 2 weeks?
I don't think we reached out to them individually, no, because there were so many. I don't think we did that, Commissioner Tyne.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So, I have a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's the process, I might have to ask Tom, what's the process if we modify the proposal to include a phrase in there that said that demolition costs for low-cost housing projects would be considered on a case-by-case basis?
Well, first of all, I was going to say, as long as it's a minor change and kind of the public's generally on notice about the topic, a minor change I think you can make, if you will, on the fly. But I guess my concern, and I was going to vocalize it later in the discussion, was just, I understand, Commissioner Cascaden, where you're going with this, but what is affordable housing? Does it have to be initiated by a government entity? Does it have to be initiated by a nonprofit? Can it be Joe Blow who says, I'm going to renovate this fixer-upper house, but I promised essentially to keep the rents at an affordable level, because that's something that's important to me personally. And it's just, I struggle a little bit with knowing kind of on the fly anyway, how we're going to define affordable housing, or whether kind of per Commissioner Beer's suggestion, whether you'd be comfortable to basically say, because I assume it's going to come up on a fairly rare basis, to give the ER department some discretion, basically say when this rare circumstance comes up in a first homes project or something that is legitimate, comes forward, that the ER department has authority in that particular case to give some latitude on the disposal fee without doing it across the board and trying to define what affordable housing is.
So, Mr. Canan, if, for example, I was going to build something and 20% of my units were going to be affordable housing, then would I qualify for that or not? It's that kind of
Right.
Nuance.
Nuance. Commissioner Beer?
Beer speaking, I think to what Tom is saying is, I may be for it, I may be against it, but I think that would have to be a separate motion, and I think that's a substantial enough change that we'd have to have a public hearing on that. I'm not saying I'm for it or against it, but I don't think we want to muddy what we're doing today with that. I think we need to deal with that either with a separate motion today, or better yet, take it under advisement, let Tony study it, maybe come up with some parameters and look at it another time. So that'd be my suggestion.
And then I have another question.
Commissioner Wright?
Thank you very much. Tony, we already know that a lot of the construction people have rapidly increased the haul rate that they're bringing in. And is it fair to assume that if we change the date of the effective date of this rate increase, that it would really bring more material in, because it appears that they're already bringing it in as fast as they can, and then it may address Commissioner Tyne's concern that this is too soon for some of the people that already have a contract.
Yeah, so that's what one of our fears is that we're just seeing it. We're seeing an increase over the last month or so of the volume, and if we extend it out further, that's what we're afraid of, is that basically we'll have to shut down the cell until we can get this little sliver built. And so, yeah, that is a fear that we're seeing, and it might just continue if we extend the time out longer. Did I answer your question, Commissioner?
Well, yeah, well, I guess what I was thinking is that they're already bringing it in, so how much more can they find?
You'd be surprised.
No, I know,
Surprise.
that's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm trying to figure out. To say that they've already brought it in, so if we extended it to, I don't know, October 31st or something like that, is it actually going to fill up? So anyway.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tyne, you had a comment?
Well, I see, we got different start dates on all these things, but the ones that deal with the consumers are basically giving them to October 1st. I would be amenable to doing start date on all these October 1st. That would give people the ability to finish their contracts.
Can we open the public?
Yep, let's open the public hearing.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tony.
Vote on that?
No.
All right, the public
Call
hearing.
for comment.
So, yes, the public hearing is open. Are there comments or for the public hearing about the revisions to the solid waste management ordinance? There are no questions.
Line?
No.
Really?
Are there any public comments to the public hearing for the revision to the solid waste management ordinance? Are there any public comments to the public hearing for the revisions to the solid waste management ordinance?
Move the public hearing's closed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Public,
Roll call. Gotta do a roll call.
sorry. Commissioner Flint?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Beer?
Aye.
Commissioner Tyne?
Aye.
Commissioner Podolsky votes aye as well, so the public hearing is closed.
I would like to make a motion that we accept Tony's recommendations as printed. With the, we've had a lot of, just a little quick explanation. Oh, this is Beer speaking again. If the people were concerned, if these haulers were concerned, they've known about it for 2 weeks, and we just had a public comment period, and not one showed up. Not one. So I'm going to move ahead with a motion to approve Tony's as presented.
Second.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer an amendment. I would move that with county board approval, demolition fees may be waived or reduced for affordable housing projects constructed within Olmsted County.
Am I supposed to accept that or not?
That needs a second.
I was going to offer, just Commissioner Cascaden, one other thought. You're aware that the ER staff and the planning staff, we've been working for months on the composting operations changes to the solid waste ordinance. So I think we're expecting 3 to 6 months-ish. We're going to be coming back for unrelated changes. It's certainly, if essentially we took your amendment, I guess is what I'm suggesting, and put it on hold just for that period of time and came up with some affordable housing language, we're going to have to essentially go through this entire process again for those composting related changes to the solid waste ordinance. We could come back and add a properly defined affordable housing piece to this, to the C&D waste as an alternative.
Well, while I recognize that in theory, there's an opportunity to look to have fees waived, unless it's part of our ordinance, the general public won't know about it, and it won't become more available. And I think this is a place that we can take a step forward. So I still would like to offer my amendment and know that staff would have to come back and flesh it out later. But I think I'd like to continue to offer my amendment, and I hope Commissioner Beer will take it as a friendly amendment. But I would understand if he chooses not to.
Doesn't it need a second, Tom?
It does.
Yes.
I will second unless Mr. Commissioner Beer would like to accept it as a friendly.
Well, I am not necessarily for it or against it, but with the questions that Tom has raised, there's a lot of questions. We've got a lot of questions on the thing the motion the way it is. So I'm gonna deny that. I hope you don't take that the wrong way. I will not take that as a friendly amendment. It's too much information jammed into one motion. If you want to make a if we pass this or don't pass it or whatever we do with this thing, and you want to make another motion after that, we can go with it then, but I don't want to combine it with this motion. So I would decline, respectfully.
I'll
decline.
second the amendment.
So now what do we got?
So, Madam Chair, the author of the amendment didn't take it as a friendly amendment, so then the motion and the second has to go to a vote.
The amendment has to go to a vote.
The amendment has to go to a vote.
So we will now take a vote on the amendment. And we'll do that by a roll call. Commissioner Flynn?
Nay.
Commissioner Cascaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Nay.
Commissioner Beer?
Nay.
Commissioner Tyne?
Commissioner Tyne votes aye.
Aye. We have 2 ayes and
Yeah.
3 ayes. You got to vote.
You break the tie.
I will vote nay, waiting for the legal description Mr. Canan has suggested.
So I'm going to propose an amendment to change the effective date to October 1st for the construction.
If you vote my motion down, just let's vote it down, come up with a new motion, but amending, this is Beer speaking again, making these amendments, I'm not gonna take them as friendly amendments. If we vote mine down, fine, then come up with a new motion.
I can accept that. Thank you, Commissioner Beer.
Okay, thank you.
So you're withdrawing?
I will withdraw.
All right.
We'll see what the vote is.
So we now will be voting for the solid waste management ordinance amendments as presented. Any questions or discussion on that? We'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Flynn,
Nay.
you are voting against accepting them as they've been presented. Commissioner Skaden,
Nay.
Commissioner Wright,
No. Nay.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Beer,
Aye.
Commissioner Tyne,
Commissioner Tyne is nay.
nay. That's 4 nays, so, and I will vote aye, but, so it does not carry.
Yep.
Now, what situation?
Stephanie,
Yes.
I have a problem. Well, I think our cost has increased too much on this. Again, what I stated earlier, your demolition costs are gonna raise the cost of all building in Olmsted County. You know, we went from $10 to $28. You know, that is, like Mark said, a 280% increase over 9 years. That's 30% a year. I just don't agree with that. You know, I'll make a motion to lower that cost, you know, from 10 to something else if staff can live with that, but I gotta ask Tony here. I'm just throwing a number out. Say we compromise, say we go from $20 or $18. Will that put you in a bind? You have to get
Up to the
upfront.
microphone. Are you staying with the same date? Just
Yeah, same date. I can live with the same date.
Yeah, so what we're looking at is about, we'd have to recover our costs is about $30. So if we can bring it up to $30, per ton, so that's what we would,
Cubic yard. So if we were 18, we were at 10 to go 28. So we got 18, so we split it.
Yeah.
$19.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
throwing these
it's-
numbers out.
yeah, so if
Is
we,
that livable with staff? Can we operate?
I think I'm looking at our finance and yeah, he's,
So going to what now?
I haven't decided
so,
yet.
so he said, from,
No, we haven't decided.
We haven't decided. I haven't decided on the motion yet.
so he said from $10, if I can repeat, if I
Yeah.
understand. So Commissioner Flynn said from currently $10 a cubic yard to about $18, $19 a cubic yard.
pick a number.
18.
18,
Split it.
okay,
Same date?
Same date.
That a
Okay.
motion?
yep,
You can live with that.
we can live with 18.
All right, I make a motion, we use the cubic yard, wherever that's a ton, from 10 to 18, whatever that figures for tonnage, and leave everything else the same. That's my
Second.
motion.
Right.
Right, so,
Madam Chair, just a point of order. Just want to make sure before you vote on the motion, just so we're crystal clear then on how the resolution's changing. So correct me if I'm wrong then. So I just want to make sure, Commissioner Flynn, I understand what you're proposing. So I'm looking at line, it's item 3B, packet page 10.
You're actually looking at the resolution.
Other solid waste is the category, construction and or demolition debris, parent C, note F, close parent. 10 is stricken now, it says 40 there now, you're proposing that the 40 number will be 18.
No, I'm going by cubic yards, Tom. Instead of 10, that 10 goes to 18. Now, how that formulates to tonnage, you'd have to give me the exact. So that would be probably, how much a ton? 27, 29, 25.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
List it.
but it's listed here as cubic
Cubic.
yards, so can we translate that into?
Yeah, so we can, we requested by the tons, but yeah, we can so we can move it from, so it'd be currently at $10 a cubic yard, and then we're talking 25 per ton, and then, what, 18, Eric? A cubic yard? Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's close enough.
Exactly.
Madam Chair, I would appreciate it if we could clarify where we are with this. I'm not sure, and I see that Ms. Welch has it.
Oh, well, Madam Chair, I just wanted to have Tony answer. The way I understood the rate that was proposed by staff, it was to bring it in line with other landfills. So how far behind would that put us from being in line if the board chose to move to 18 instead of, or 29 instead of 40?
Yeah, so, yeah, so we can deal with it. We're kind of also, we increased the cost a little to encourage the recycling, so, yeah, so, yeah, so
You missed
25.
that. You need to say it again, please.
Yeah, so we can live with that price. What we did is when we initially recommended the $40 per ton, we increased it a little to encourage recycling. And so, but we can live with that $25 a ton rate.
Tony, how does that compare though to other? What I'm wanting you to tell the board is how will they compare then? How will those fees compare to other landfills?
Yeah, so it'll be a comparison. And remember, I told you that the demo rates are all over the board, from $11 a ton to like 118. $11 a cubic yard to 118 per ton. So we kind of just looked what was in the market and then what our actual costs were. And so that's why we came up, and then also increasing it to encourage recycling. So that gets us to where we need to be. So.
Okay.
Why would we not want to be competitive? Why would we want to be lower?
That's been the argument.
Well, we just voted that down.
Yeah, that was the problem, is that we have been lower than others in the marketplace, and so that's why we were seeing the demo coming to us. So.
But we are at $25 a ton, we're still higher than Austin.
We'd be higher than Austin.
We'd be higher than Austin.
We'd be higher than Austin.
Then Austin would have to consider the transportation costs, so we'd be, depends where you live in the county.
Right.
It comes down to the transportation costs, roads.
Everything's a business.
My motion is to move that to $25 a ton.
I seconded it.
And Madam Chair, could I again ask for clarification on page 10, other solid waste, which line items we are correcting, what we are amending?
So it's my understanding, right? It's the line that says construction and or demolition debris, parent C, note F, close parent. It says 40 now. The 40 will be stricken and replaced by 25 under the rate column, and then there's also another total column to the right of that. That 40 will also become 25, right?
And our costs are 30.
That is correct. Yeah, so it'd be.
So we would not be recouping our costs at 25.
So, yep, so our recovery was about $30. Yeah. Our total recovery was $30.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I'm not trying to be difficult, but
I don't
Well,
follow
I'm-
down here either.
I'm
Yeah.
hearing two different things.
Yeah.
So let me just make sure that I understand. The asbestos-containing material will remain at $40 per cubic yard. Construction and or demolition debris will move to $25 a ton. And at that reimbursement rate, or at that rate, we do not collect enough to cover our costs.
So our estimate is between 25 to 30, is that correct, Eric? About 20 to recover our costs.
Could you speak so that
Yeah.
people could hear
Come
you?
up, Eric.
Come up.
Hello, Commissioners. Eric Brower, I'm Finance. Mike Cook, our plant engineer, I believe his title is, did the calculations based on the new potential rules for the landfills. It's about $30 a ton would be our cost. On our current cost, I think it was right around that $18 per ton.
So our current costs are $18 a ton, but for the new requirements for the new landfill, it'll be $30 a ton. And you were proposing that we move to the $30 a ton now, so we could begin to recover the full cost for the new cell.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Deputy?
Yes, Commissioner Flynn?
You know, we don't know what the state's gonna do. You said potentially cost, but we don't know them cost yet, what it's gonna take. I really don't like us to go down a path where, well, this other government agency might tell us what we're gonna do, but we better charge this much. I'm more concerned about the citizens than about another agency that potentially might be our cost. We can review this again in a year or two. It's not gold for 5 years. So until we know the potential cost, isn't it to our advantage? Here's our cost to our citizens, the best we can do, and keep that instead of maybe have costs that, well, we better collect it. I don't like that. I don't collect that on any fee.
Let me jump in. Think may help clarify. Number one, we're going to have increased costs to expand the current cell temporarily to do that. We have a pretty good read on what they're planning, which is going to look like an MSW cell. We know what that costs, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're looking at a break-even cost of somewhere around $30 a ton when we have to do this. And it looks like we will have to do it if we continue to take demolition. So I mean that we do know what it's going to cost us.
Right.
We don't know exactly when, but we know it's going to cost us in the interim now to expand, and we know that it's going to look like an MSW cell, and we do know what that cost is.
That's correct, but there's too many potential departments out there saying, well, we gotta do this, and all we do is pass it on to the consumer, that increased costs, and that's why we don't have affordable housing.
Well,
We don't have affordable transportation because
We vote on the motion on the
Your
table.
motion was for 25, and you're saying that 30 would be a break even.
Close enough.
We can accept 25. I mean, that will.
Okay.
About the potential, yeah.
So let's see, did we got a second on?
Yeah, I seconded
on
it.
that?
Yep.
And
Mr.
we're
Beer.
all done with discussions, we're calling the question.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I realize, Mr. Hill, and I'm sorry, Eric, I've forgotten your last name.
Brower.
Ms. Brower, that you're trying to find a solution for moving forward. And I realize you're trying to protect the consumer. But it feels to me like we still have some concern that we're not making the optimal decision. And I wondered
we're not.
if anyone else would care to speak to that.
But this is
is a
Jim,
compromise.
this is beer. You voted down what they wanted. So now you got something less. I mean, what they wanted, you voted down.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I could just speak quickly, I think that you want to at least cover our costs. That's what I'm concerned about here. I understand what Commissioner Flynn is saying. I think it's perfectly reasonable to, for the board to decide not to go that extra increment that was meant to incent recycling, but I think you ought to cover our costs, which I think reasonably is at $30, not at 28 or 25.
And
That's my advice.
I just observed that the previous motion, there was also a timing issue that was of concern in the previous motion that failed. So we have two things. We have the fees, but we also have the amount of notice and how soon it goes into effect as factors here. So just to be clear on what we really have before us, we're not going to cover our costs, but we're going to start to collect the new fees immediately.
That was your motion?
That was Commissioner.
And you want to stay with the 25?
Yes.
And it's been moved and seconded?
Roll call.
All right, Commissioner Flynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden?
Nay.
Commissioner Wright?
Nay.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Beer?
Aye.
Commissioner Tyne?
Nay.
Guess what?
Okay, well, I would have preferred to go to the 30 to be, so I'm gonna vote nay. Because I believe we should be at 30.
Okay, this is Mark, can I make a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we move it to 30 with an effective date of September 1st.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or questions about that motion?
Again, Madam Chair, I'm just trying to make a clear record is all, so it would be, everything is unchanged. This is getting hard, so
It is.
everything would be unchanged as far as the dates go, but again, that line item we've been talking about would be $30 per ton for the rate and $30 per ton total. That's what the motion is, Commissioner Tyne.
No, and also change the date to
Oh,
September
and with the
1st.
date changed to September 1st, but only for that particular line item.
Yes.
All the dates on the other changes would remain as proposed by ER staff.
Yeah.
Correct.
Need a program to follow these.
All right, do we have a second for that?
I misunderstood the motion. So, Mr. Canan, I assumed in seconding that we were changing the date for all the fee changes, but you're saying just for that one?
Just this.
Well, maybe Commissioner
was
Tyne should
Commissioner
clarify
Tyne's-
what his motion was,
Could
actually.
Commissioner Tyne clarify your motion, please?
Well, my motion was just for that item, but I'd be amenable to a friendly amendment.
Or how about an unfriendly one? So,
The rat hole's getting deeper here.
Hey, so
Madam Chair, I think part of the problem is we have so many different fees that we're adjusting in this document, and there's only one that seems to be really controversial.
Let's,
So it's part of the confusion.
yeah.
Commissioner Tyne,
Let's, Commissioner Tyne, would you be all right for us going with your first motion, which was to raise the rate to 30 for this one item and change the date for that one item to September 1st?
Yep, if I get a second, I'm fine with that.
Do I hear a second?
second.
All right, any questions or discussions? All right, we'll vote on that one then, on that motion. Do I need to repeat the motion, Tom?
If everyone's clear on it, no, but if they aren't, yes.
Commissioner Flynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden?
aye.
Commissioner Wright? Aye. Commissioner Brown?
nay.
Commissioner Beer?
Nay.
Commissioner Tyne?
Tyne votes aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. So it carries. Passes, yes.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Sorry, Tony.
Have any building projects coming up?
Back on recycling again.
So that closes our public hearings.
Oh, we have to.
Oh, we have
Yeah,
to
no,
close
yeah,
them
we did,
too?
We did, yes.
Oh, we
Did
did.
all that, all right.
Did all that.
Make sure I do everything right. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approve the minutes from the May 18th, 2021 meeting. Proclaim June as Vulnerable Adult Abuse Awareness Month. Approve lottery and DAV deer hunts at Chester Woods and Oxbow Parks. Accept the COVID-19 grant award. Approve fraud prevention investigation grant renewal. Approve amended Olmsted County Highway right-of-way plats 225, 226, 227. Approve gambling permit for Deer Creek Long Spurs National Wild Turkey Federation. Approve purchase of service agreement with Family Service Rochester for the Parent Partner Program. Accept a $30,000 donation for Oxbow Park.
Nice.
Approve 2021 State Boat and Safety Grant.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second, we'll take are there any discussions, questions? We'll take a roll call.
How
Commissioner,
wonderful to see that donation.
yes. Commissioner Flynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cascaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Excuse me.
Yeah, whatever.
Commissioner Wright, you can vote too. Aye. Commissioner Beer?
Aye.
Commissioner Tyne?
Uh-oh.
Is he muted or is he, did he go away?
He's all into the landfill. That stuff every time.
Nice.
Oh,
He's on, but he's muted.
God. He's
Commissioner
muted.
Tyne?
Classic,
He was having internet trouble.
19,
So.
you are muted.
Access to the chat.
Oh, we almost had him.
We have a quorum, so.
Yeah, you
Eleven
haven't
enough.
lost a quorum,
we-
so.
I'm aye. I'm aye.
You're aye. All right, I'm aye too. So the consent agenda passes, carries. Now the regular agenda. We have a discussion item for the county administrator showcase.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, this is our renewed focus once a month on a project or a group of staff that we want to highlight. Last month you heard from the snowplow drivers, the ice and snow crew, and today you're going to hear from the county attorney's office, I believe, about their new software and the work that went in there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mark House from Olmsted County Attorney, and hopefully my screen is going to come up here.
There you go.
There it is. As part of the showcase, we've been asked to kind of share with you, a project or something new that's been going on. Obviously, there's a lot of new things going on. But I thought I'd share with you today our new case management system. We, as you may recall, from previous budget discussions, we requested money to change over to a new case management system. We were going from MCAPS, which is the icon or the picture on the top of that, which was MCAPS, our old case management system, and we moved over to Carpel, prosecuted by Carpel. Interestingly, we did that during the pandemic of all times. But it turned out that was probably a great time to do it because it gave us an opportunity to really, I'll say, enjoy some of the features of the new system that we couldn't do in prosecutor or in MCAPS. This is just the login screen. It's pretty boring, but I put that on there to share with you that this system is all web-based. When we had to go remote, back in last March, one of the struggles we had with MCAPS was that it is so slow. And when you go remote, when you're trying to work from home, it is infinitesimal amount slower. Most of my staff would literally try to sign on to MCAPS and go off and leave and come back in about 10 minutes. It took about that long for it to load. And frankly, and sometimes it just simply would time out. So it was a real problem with that. And when we were able to switch over to the PBK, the sign-on is a matter of seconds. I mean, literally, you just sign on. It's just like going to any other website, and it's there. All of our database now, instead of being held on a server right here in our building, is now on a server someplace in St. Louis. And it's all very secure, but it's all very easily accessed.
So how old was MCAPS, Mark?
We've been using MCAPS since at least the early 90s.
Oh.
We've gone through a lot of iterations with it.
Okay.
The last couple of years, you probably remember, we were down telling you how it was just becoming impossible. And in fact, the last 2 years, there were so many errors or so many problems. It was, MCAPS is going through their own rewrite, and they frankly just refused to service us. That was another issue.
You had me at early 90s. I get it.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily DOS based, but it was pretty close. Some of the features that we particularly enjoy about PBK is our ability to search. This is what our search page used to look like in MCAPS, and what you would do is you would just put in a name and hit enter, and you get this whole list. Well, this list didn't mean anything. If you were looking for a particular defendant, that defendant's name or person of interest, I guess I'll say, name would show up. But if you wanted to know if the name you're putting in was somebody who's a witness or something like that, you end up with a list like this, and you got to poke through every single one of them to find what you're looking at. In prosecutor by Carpel, you put in that name, and not only does it give you a list of all those cases, but there's all these tabs across the top, and it'll tell you if the person was listed as a defendant, as a witness, or even in this case, might have a civil matter going on. So it's pretty cool the way that thing works. So much faster, and then again, so much more specific as to the information we get. Again, when we were working with MCAPs up in the courtrooms, we went paperless about 2-3 years ago, and thank heavens we did, because when we went remote, we weren't carrying files around. Literally, I was up at Sherburne County talking to the county attorney up there, and she's got these racks and racks of files. And for the last year, they've had to have all their staff come in on a schedule, pick up a stack of files, and go home to work remotely. We didn't have to do that. Everybody's got laptops, and now everybody has complete access to it. The problem we had, either when we were in court or whether we were in a virtual setting, is that with MCAPs you could only open one case at a time. You could only write one note at a time, and switching from case to case was just laborious. With prosecutor by Carpel, again, you can see there's tabs up there, and one person may have 3 different tabs, or we can open up all of those files that an attorney might be in court for, and you can just go from tab to tab to tab. It's just like working on the internet. I mean, it is so simple, and especially going remote, it made it so much easier for us to participate in court and keep things moving along. Frankly, we were faster than the court could be. Again, running reports was a huge issue for us in MCAPs, just simply unable to do so. It's so simple to just run a report on a particular staff person's caseload. In the past, we might be able to run a report on an attorney's caseload, but now the paralegals are put in as assigned staff on these cases as well, and so we can tell every paralegal's caseload, and we can better balance our caseloads. We can just do a lot better job of managing our work amongst our staff up there. So that's also been very helpful. The report functions have been just wonderful to work with. What do we got here? We can also, well, this was going to transition into our other discussion. When I go back, I just share a couple things that might resonate with you about the reporting thing. For example, in the administrative committee, something came up about gun permits. I was able to run a report. We have 15 open gun permit violations. I can do it just like that. The tax appeals issue, I can run a report. I'd have to share a different screen, but I could run a report and show you the list of all the tax appeals we've got, and it's quite long. So our ability to manage our work is so much better with this system. And we're seeing across the state, county attorney after county attorney is dropping the MCAP system and going to either PBK or something similar. So as far as money well spent, I'm very appreciative of being able to have made this switch. When we made the switch, we actually did all of our training and the switch at the end of October in 2020. At that point, we did not have any staff in the office other than the remnants that we had to have. Again, with MCAPs, we had to have a certain number of staff in the office. And so we brought our folks back. We were staged. We were running 2 different conference rooms with distancing and masks and all that stuff. We had our trainers come in from St. Louis, and they did a great job converting us. And I wouldn't say it's been completely problem-free, but a major switchover like this, it's been amazing how simple the changeover went, and just so smooth. So so far so good. Everything is working wonderfully, and I'm very appreciative of that. So that's our case management system. That's kind of our showcase for today. The other thing I did want to share with you, and we've had some discussion at administrative committee, is this concept of the number of cases we've got sitting out there, this bubble that's coming. This is the end page of the report, and I think it says 2485. I'm sorry, but my eyes don't work as well. That's the last page. I could, again, share you the screen. I can show you all 217 pages of this report. It's just looming out there. You probably don't need to see that. I thought about printing it, but I thought that's a waste of paper, and we're paperless now. So, but it's just this bubble is just sitting there and it's looming, and we're just waiting to see how and when it's all going to resolve. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like on the court's calendar this is just an example. I pulled this case out of the report. It's on one of the earlier pages of the report. But the court's calendar shows up on the right corner there, it says the case was filed on April 10th of 2020. It's a felony domestic assault case and a false imprisonment case. And in October, we've gotten through some of our perfunctory hearings by video virtual format. And then we get to the point where the defendant decides whether he wants a trial or not. That was on October 23rd of 2020. Nothing has happened on that case since October 23, 2020. This particular person is out on bail. I think this person has posted unconditional bail. So for about 6 months or so, or actually about 9 or 10 months or so, this person has been just out and about in our community, and that's fine. Hopefully for the victim, everything is going fine. But there is nothing happening on this case. It is just sitting there waiting. And the courts are going to try and reschedule these things in on a first come, first served basis. So it's going to be a while before this case actually makes it into the court calendar. I didn't have time to put in, but I was going to show you, when we look at our September court calendars right now, the court doesn't really know, hasn't decided what they're going to do, and it's blank. It's literally blank. So we're just sitting here waiting, kind of for the shoe to drop when all these cases are going to all of a sudden hit the fan. So without taking up too much more of your time, I know you've had a little bit of an enjoyable meeting so far. Is there any questions that you might have?
What was your first clue?
So I liked your mixed metaphor. So when the dropped shoe hits the fan,
yeah,
that's when we.
I use a different metaphor when I'm not wearing my work suit, but yeah, it's going to hit the fan.
Are there any amendments or modifications you would ask us to suggest for this system?
I thought about it, and I figured you've probably been through enough today.
Madam Chair, is there any possibility that, I know court scheduling has been an issue for many, many years. Are we moving toward a more of an online process that's more interactive for court scheduling that will allow all the actors to have better notice? And
I'd have to say that there's been a lot of, the pandemic was challenging for the court system, but there have been some things once they figured out how to do virtual formats, there's been some things that have been really worked well. We hope they continue. We've been doing, for example, the arraignments from the jail. Today we had 12 new felony cases in custody, and instead of hauling all those people up to the courtroom, we've just set them up with a laptop, and we're doing the arraignments from jail. So there's some of those things in the perfunctory hearings we're very hopeful will continue. That's kind of up to state court administration and the Chief Justice, and we're very hopeful that they will. There's some things we just have to get back into the courtroom. The scheduling issue has been a little bit of an issue getting these things back into the system. I've been suggesting lots of priorities, and the courts have looked at some of those. They've adopted some of those. For example, we've had some what I call serial domestic abusers out there, people that have committed up to 5 domestic assaults during the pandemic that we just can't process their cases. And so they have taken some priorities on those. But we're still looming out here with 2,400 or so cases, and everybody's kind of scratching their head wondering, how are we going to do this? So there's lots of ideas, but I don't know that it's come to any real resolution yet. So, other thoughts or questions?
It's tough, Mark. It's going to be tough to catch up. Or
I wish we knew how to get out of this. Unfortunately, I've told a lot of people, as a county, the county was absolutely ready for the pandemic. nobody wanted it, but we've spent all this time doing these continuing operations plans and stuff, and we were ready, and my office was ready. It was seamless. The courts were not. It took about 3 to 4 months before the courts figured out how to do Zoom and to start being comfortable using that. And now we've gotten very good at it, but that contributed to the backlog. And now as we're coming out of it, there's some other, well, I feel like we're kind of ready. We're ready to get over there and do trials. Some of the other partners in this are not as well prepared. And so, like I said, the court's calendar is blank right now. They aren't really sure what they're going to do. I know the public defender's office is struggling with staffing and other issues, and there's been some issues not being able to be ready for trial. So I feel like we're ready, but we're just, it's when that shoe is going to drop and all this stuff is going to hit.
Well, all those years arguing for video arraignment could have really smoothed this whole process.
Well, the first 2 or 3 months especially.
I'm sorry.
That was a huge issue. I mean, it really was. And until they got into June and actually tried it, and then it was okay. So, but yeah, there was a lot of angst for a lot of years over that.
Thanks.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Mark.
couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Got it out of your system now?
No, but
Uh-oh.
it helped. A little bit.
Helped. Okay. So board and committee reports. Let's start at this end. Commissioner Beer?
No report.
Commissioner Brown?
Nothing. Nothing that rises.
Ken,
to the
tell us about the
occasion.
legislation.
Pardon?
Anything else you want to
Anything
get
on
out
the
of your
legislature?
system?
Anything?
Oh,
Christ, you got some more gasoline?
matter of fact, you don't get the job done. June 14th, the emergency's over, the declaration. It's trying to calm me down. I think I'm being pretty reasonable. It's time to get the business done.
And Jim's calming you down. That's a remarkable situation.
Wow.
Transportation items, the things that just move us forward, now just languishing. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Flynn?
Nothing.
Commissioner Cascada?
The not-for-profit consortium continues to meet, and it is really, I think, having some real benefit in getting coordination among various partners at the community level. They had been meeting, well, the schedules varied around COVID, but they now have a staff person that they've hired, that they're working regularly to look at how they can get deeper cooperation, coordination, and support for one another within the not-for-profit community. I think that's going fairly well. I also just really want to comment about the Olmsted County Justice Council. I'm not sure that we all take our turns. I think I was on it. I've been on it again, and I don't think we all realize how many different work groups that body has, and how many that Shelley McBride staffs. And just recently, I was talking to someone about our changes around handling domestic violence, and the relationship that's happening between the county systems and the women's shelter. And the person I was talking to was a women's shelter board and was full of praise for the work that our county staff had done, particularly Shelley, and get us to the point that we really are cooperating on that. And the good news about that is that there's a new work group that is working on the issue of equity and within the justice system. And that group is coming together with Brooke Carlson and as sort of the co-chairs, but really diverse group coming together. I think that's going to also give us another way to look, as everyone across the nation is looking at, how do we have systems that are equitable for all? And I just think, when I was first elected, we were trying to debate whether or not the OCJC should be established. And when I'm with other counties and hear about some of the things that are happening, I realize that our OCJC really has made a difference for us, but also then in comparison to other counties. So all of you over there that are part of the OCJC, well done, because it really has made a difference. And you chose well when you put Shelley in as the coordinator of that function. Only other thing I'd say is that some of us are going to the District 9 meeting of AMC on Monday, and there's some good things happening at AMC as well, so maybe we'll see you there.
Commissioner Wright?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I have started to participate with the Binational Committee on Energy Sustainability, and in that committee, we're working. It's already been established, so I'm joining late, but Senator Senjum has been involved with this with our German counterparts. And I can see that in our future that at some point we will have another committee on energy sustainability, because we're going to have to figure out how to coordinate all of the electrical grid systems with the many kinds of energies that we will be producing in order to be sustainable, which is the solar, the wind, and our renewable energy source of garbage, our solid waste. And then our solid waste is also going to transform itself not only into what we can burn, but also then what we can create in a digester system with our organic waste. So we're learning and have the potential of learning a lot from our international friends because they're willing to share their technology and their information. Tony Hill is ahead of the rest of the counties on this stuff about learning this stuff. But I do think that at some point that it's going to be important for us to have a committee that is going to look at this, because we're going to need expertise of engineers, of people that know about the electrical grid system, of people that are political, that are going to be able to wind their way through all of the private energy systems to get them to coordinate into one energy system. And it's going to be a big task that we would have ahead of us, and the sooner that we start on that, the better that we start on that. And then secondly, I really want to compliment the park board for their future thinking, and all of the past park board members, as well as Carlin, who is our superintendent now, plus Tom, who has preceded her, because the premier venue for entertainment and learning in Olmsted County is the Nature Center and the zoo, and we're starting in that $7.5 million upgrade of that, and I was very pleased to participate in that along with Commissioner Beer, who had some very good words for the people of Olmsted County as well as for the region. So I think it's wonderful that we can do that, as well as continue to look at our park system as our county grows. And we're starting the process of looking at corridors of entertainment as well for recreation and our park system. So I think that it's one of those areas, while we debate many other things here in the boardroom, that those projects continue and will eventually arrive at this dais that we will be voting on. So it's really, really nice to see that progress. So thank you very much.
Commissioner Tyne?
No report, thank you.
Okay. Well, I also wanted to talk about the Oxbow Nature Center groundbreaking, which is what Commissioner Wright was referring to. That was a very celebratory day. And also to continue what Commissioner Wright was talking about with the climate event that we had online with the German people, I guess. I don't know. I did learn that there was, from that there is someone at the city who's working on a sustainability report. And so I invited her to make a report to us in September after she has made her report to the city. I thought it would be interesting for us to hear what she's doing. Okay, so that,
Heidi.
oh, Heidi,
Yep,
yes.
Madam Chair, I would just add for the rest of the board members that we will have the city presenting on that report. We are also working on a resiliency report. That's what we're referring to as opposed to sustainability. So it's similar, but we'll focus a little bit more on what can be done now. And that will be on the same date that we hear from the city in
Okay.
September.
So we have that to look forward to, as well as the rates changing. So, I'd like to end our meeting with a quote. I think as we begin to come back together, we've been all separated for so long. We've been separated from our friends. We're all learning new ways to be together. We've also learned a lot of things about ourselves during this long separation. So I found this quote, which I thought might help us be gentle with ourselves and other people. The title of it is "To Accept Someone Long Term is to attend 1,000 funerals of the people they used to be. People they're too exhausted to be any longer. The people they don't recognize inside themselves anymore. The people they grew out of. The people they never ended up growing into. We so badly want the people we love to get their spark back when it burns out, to become speedily found when they are lost. But it is not our job to hold anyone accountable to the people they used to be. It is our job to travel with them between each version and to honor what emerges along the way. Sometimes it will be an even more luminescent flame. Sometimes it will be a flicker that disappears and temporarily floods the room with the perfect and necessary darkness. I hate to end a quote in the word darkness, but that let us be gentle with each other, and as we come back together, accept that people will be different, and so are we. And this is emerging out of our cocoons now. So that's my quote for this meeting. And we can adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
and now we will, thank you, Mark. We will now, let's say, in 5 minutes, have a committee of the whole on future residential